영어 동화 세상 리틀팍스.
The Wishing Well, Chapter 1. The Wishing Well.
Moving is never easy. Moving from a big city like Chicago to a small country village is even harder. Just ask the Barth children.
Ugh, there's nothing to do here.
Complained the oldest, named Cy.
I don't see any shops.
Whined Anthea, the second eldest. Among her siblings, her nickname was Panther. When her younger brother, Bobby, was little, he couldn't say Anthea. He called her Panther instead. And now the others did too.
Oh, what do you mean we won't have internet?
Cried Bobby, looking up at his father.
Eek! What's that?
Jane screamed. A little brown field mouse scurried from under the steps and into the grass. No one in the family had wanted to move to Aunt Martha's house. But Father had lost his job, and they had no choice.
It's only for a short while,
Mother said, trying to comfort the children as they sat at the kitchen table.
And there's lots of things to do around here.
Said Aunt Martha.
Yeah, like catch grasshoppers?
Cy said in a rather nasty way.
Grasshoppers? Where?
Screamed Jane. To make matters worse, Mother and Father left the next morning. Father had some job interviews in Chicago. The children stood alone on the steps as the car pulled away.
Bah, bah.
Cried the baby happily.
Oh, Lamb. Nothing makes you sad, does it?
Panther laughed. Hillary, the baby, got his nickname because the first word he said was "ba," just like a little lamb. The children didn't want to go back inside the house. There was nothing to do there. Behind Aunt Martha's house was a thick forest. And since no one had a better idea, they set off to explore the woods.
Look!
Bobby pointed excitedly at a family of raccoons.
Smell these!
Panther said as she bent over some colorful flowers. All day the children searched the forest for new discoveries. After a while, they found themselves in a thicket of trees.
It's awfully dark in here.
Panther said in a worried voice.
Maybe we should go back.
Jane added.
Hey, look at this!
Cy called out excitedly. Cy had found an old dried-up well.
Can you see anything?
Asked Jane as they all peered down the well.
Nope, but there's a funny smell.
Replied Cy.
Is there any water?
Bobby asked. The children stared deeper into the well, their eyes getting wider.
I wonder if this is a wishing well.
Said Jane.
Wait, look here.
Said Panther. Next to the well, Panther had found an old wooden bucket attached to some rope.
Let's lower this bucket and see what's down there.
She said.
What's she doing?
Bobby said, pointing to Jane. Jane's eyes were closed, and she was holding onto a coin.
I'm making a wish.
She replied. She turned around and threw the coin over her shoulder and into the well. Clink, clink, clonk. A voice cried from the well.
Did you hear that?
Whispered Bobby.
Hello, down there!
Cy shouted.
Hello, down there!
His voice echoed inside the well. Then silence.
I'm sure I heard something.
Said Bobby.
Do you think it's an animal?
Jane asked worriedly.
There's only one way to find out.
Cy said excitedly. He lowered the bucket down the well.
Can you feel anything?
Panther asked.
Oh, hurry up, will you?
Bobby said impatiently. Cy pulled the bucket back up. It was full of mud, soda cans, an old shoe, and some rocks. Cy lowered the bucket again several times. If there was something in the well, he was determined to find it.
The Wishing Well, Chapter 2. The children meet Huey.
After a while, Cy got tired of lowering the bucket. The others wanted to give up too. Cy let out a deep breath.
That's it. There's nothing else down there.
He said, emptying a final bucket load.
Wait!
Cried Panther.
Look at this!
She picked out an unusual shell covered in mud.
What is it?
Jane asked, looking closer. Panther wiped off some of the mud and held it up. It was beautiful.
I think it's a seashell.
She replied. She began wiping off the rest of the mud. Suddenly, the shell began to giggle. Panther was so shocked she almost dropped it.
It laughed!
Bobby shouted loudly.
Something's inside!
He knocked on the shell. Ouch! Stop that! The shell cried. The children all looked at each other. Then the most amazing thing happened. A creature poked its head out from the shell. It had the face of a seahorse. On its neck and back were shimmery fins that opened and closed. As its head circled left and right, the fins glowed and shone. For the first time in their lives, the children were speechless. Well? The creature asked in an irritated voice. Finally, Panther spoke up.
What are you?
The creature gazed at them. Let me get this straight, it began. You throw things on me and wake me up, it glared at Jane. You start taking away my things, it looked at Cy. You tickle me, it stared at Panther. Then you bang on my shell. Bobby looked down at the ground. And now you tell me that you don't even know what I am? The children stared at the ground in embarrassment.
We're sorry.
Apologized Jane.
We didn't know you were in the well.
The creature didn't say anything. After a while, its fins stopped glowing. Apology accepted, it said finally.
But we really don't know what you are.
Cy added quickly. I am Huey de Orlan, it announced. The eighth of my kind of the sea.
Wow!
The children said in unison. But you can call me Huey, the creature smiled. It was clear from the children's blank faces that they still did not know what he was. Do you know what an Orlane is? He asked.
Not really.
Jane admitted for them all. Huey closed his eyes dramatically. His head turned quickly from side to side. At one time, he said, we Orlanes were the best-known mystic creatures of the sea.
You mean you're a fairy?
Interrupted Bobby. A fairy? Oh my, oh my! Huey's fins started to glow again as they opened and closed quickly.
Please don't be upset, Huey.
Said Jane.
Bobby didn't mean to call you a fairy.
All right then, Huey said calmly. Orlanes have the gift to grant others whatever they want, he continued.
You mean you can make wishes come true?
Bobby asked. Huey nodded, and the other children joined Bobby in shouts of delight. However, Huey said in a loud voice, there are two things you must promise.
We'll do anything to get our wish.
Jane clapped her hands. Huey continued. First, he said, you can only make one wish a day. And second, after making your wish, you must return me to the well.
That doesn't sound too hard.
Cy laughed.
By the way,
Huey smiled.
at sunset, everything returns to the way it was.
You mean our wish is true only for one day?
Asked Bobby in a disappointed voice.
Yes,
Huey replied, and with that, he disappeared back into his shell.
The Wishing Well, Chapter 3. The First Wish.
The next morning, the children could hardly eat their breakfast fast enough. They were excited about visiting Huey again.
Where's the fire?
Aunt Martha asked. Cy gave his siblings a warning look. They had promised not to speak about Huey to anyone.
We're just going out to the woods today.
Bobby said, his mouth full of pancake. The previous day, Cy had lowered Huey back down the well, just as Huey had asked. And Bobby had cleverly marked the trail that led to the well. But after searching for the trail for a while, they seemed to be going in circles.
Are you sure it's this way, Bobby?
Jane whined.
What did you use to mark the trail?
Asked Panther.
Peanuts.
Replied Bobby. Unfortunately for the children, a family of raccoons had eaten Bobby's trail markers.
Just great! We'll never find the trail!
Cried Cy. The children looked around in confusion.
Let's try this path.
Panther said. They headed off in the direction she pointed. Hours passed, but there was still no sign of the well.
We're lost. We'll never find Huey now.
Complained Jane.
Wait, what's that over there?
Cried Cy, pointing and jumping up and down.
Look, we found the well!
The children raced to the well. Cy quickly lowered the bucket and pulled up the shell.
Huey! Huey!
They called together. Huey's head slowly peeked out of his shell.
oh, it's you again,
He said sleepily.
I was hoping that meeting you had been just a bad dream.
Panther decided to ask something friendly.
Huey, how did you end up in this well?
It may look like just an old well to you,
Huey said.
but this well is also a traveling station for sea creatures like me.
Where are you going?
Asked Jane.
I am journeying to Marvesti to meet my brothers. This well is only a temporary stop.
You mean you're going to leave?
Bobby wailed.
When?
When the time is right.
Huey replied in a firm voice.
Now, do you have a wish or not?
In all their excitement, the children hadn't thought about what to wish for. They looked at each other.
I haven't got all day, and neither do you,
Huey pointed out.
I think Cy should make the first wish.
Said Jane.
Thank you, Jane.
Said Cy smugly.
Why should Cy go first?
Complained Bobby. While the three of them argued, Panther said softly to herself.
I wish we were beautiful and handsome.
Suddenly, Huey's fins glowed pink and red. They opened and closed gracefully 3 times. The children stopped arguing and looked at Huey in amazement. Then each of them felt a light, soft mist on his or her face.
What's happening?
Bobby asked in a scared voice.
Your wish is being granted,
Replied Huey.
Our wish? What wish?
Cy asked, puzzled. They felt the mist lift from their faces.
Your wish to become beautiful and handsome,
Said Huey. Cy, Bobby, and Jane looked at each other, and at Panther too, wondering what Huey meant. But none of the children recognized the faces staring back. just as Panther had wished. Each of them was as beautiful or handsome as a movie star.